Check 1, 2. It's a great day in Kershaw County. We have a quorum. Mr. Jones is on the way. It's a great day in an all-American county, and we're also happy to report that after 1 year of COVID, we're starting on the other side of this pandemic, we hope, with less than 200 cases active right now for the first time in over 100 days.
Amen.
And that doesn't mean we're in good shape. It means we seem to be on the downward path with only 4 cases reported today. We're still in an emergency session in accordance with the law from our governor and the city of Camden, and we're following our e-meeting format. And before we begin, let's just remember that coming down from a tree is often as dangerous as going up, and we haven't gone through a pandemic before, and we've never come out of a pandemic before, and we're learning as we go. Let's take every step to do it as quickly as we can, get rid of these masks and all these other restrictions, and voluntary and otherwise, but at the same time exercising appropriate care and concern for one another. And in token of which, we've lost a few more of our devoted souls, and so I ask for a moment of silence for each of those families. Amen.
Amen.
And with that, can you join with me in the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Please stand, everyone. Remembering the words in the psalm, "Blessed is a nation whose God is the Lord." We invoke His Holy Spirit with us today. Give us wise counsel to direct just actions in this council on behalf of our people and in honoring the glory of His holy name. This which we ask in the name of our Lord and Savior. Let all the people say amen.
Amen.
And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much indeed. With that, we move to public comments. Mary, do we have any mail-ins or email formats? None. With that, Mr. DeBose, do we have any people signed up for public comments?
Two individuals signed up. The first individual that signed up is Tom Webb, and the second individual is Tom Webb III.
Excellent. Mr. Webb, please, sir. Senior or junior? Oh, it's not son and daughter, it's Tim. Come on up, Tim Webb. And Tim, you're familiar with our program.
Excuse me, Tim Webb, I apologize.
Yeah, Tim,
No
you're
relation,
familiar.
it's a vowel difference is all.
Now, Mr. Webb, you're familiar with our protocols here. It's not a
I've read all
question
your
and answer.
protocols, Chairman.
Please go right ahead.
I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak. As a retired Army officer, one of the most important traits I look for in my elected officials and friends is authenticity. If an elected official actually believes in a policy he's advocating, he won't equivocate based upon the popularity of that policy within different groups. Last night, I witnessed a council member in a political gathering remove his mask out of what I must assume was political expediency. He did this despite recently demanding in this forum that another council member wear the mask. I don't appreciate or condone that kind of hypocrisy from an elected official or a friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webb. And Mr. DeBose?
And now Tom Webb III.
The real Tom Webb. Well, I attended something yesterday afternoon, last night. It was wonderful to see great crowds of people acting normal. They were close together, really enjoying talking in each other's faces, very few masks. I sure hope that this is an indication that we're getting over the hysteria. And of course, what I've always assumed would have helped a lot is the zinc that helps me, rather than be too afraid of this thing. Nobody wants to catch anything, even a bad case of the cold, but zinc for me has proven its worth over a great many years. So no telling how many people it would have kept out of the hospital if they'd just known how to use it, when to use it, and to stay warm, and maybe a little vitamin D3. But it seems like it's been suppressed somewhat by the upper levels of national medical people like Fauci. Well, it seems that we are expected to look out for our neighbor's health, and I don't mind doing that a little bit. You know, if there's someone in here that does not want me close to him because I'm not wearing a mask, I respect that. But when I'm a little further away from him, I want him to respect that I don't want to wear that mask. So, you know, there's a back and forth in this thing. So I'm expected to look out for my neighbor's health while I'm not looking out for the country that he helped hold together many years working, paying his taxes, may have served in the military, may have been a policeman. So I'll have to look out for his health while I let his country go to ruin, falling prey to a very dangerous thing, this international communism. And it looks like the communists played on the world stage to create a hysteria that has caused us to lock down at times and to keep people from meeting together, from formulating some response to this hysteria. I guess that's enough of that particular topic. But the next thing is the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, who is the head of the World Economic Forum, has said that their Agenda 2030 will end private property by 2030. That you won't own anything. You'll have to borrow it, I guess, from whatever government entity is in charge at the time. And he says, you will like it. And I take that not to mean, not a comment of, you're going to like it a lot, but you will have to like it. Private property has been chipped away at for such a long time, and it looks like now there is a crescendo coming of the end of private property. And if you can end private property, that is, I can't own the things that I have bought or somebody has given me or I've found that nobody else claimed. If I can't own that, then what's the next step? That I can't own my fingernails, my hair, myself. I can't own my arms and legs. These things occur step by step, little by little, until it's too late. So watch out. Please watch out for private property. It's a very American thing, and it's connected with your self-ownership. Don't we as Americans own ourselves? Don't we require that? Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. DeBose.
That concludes the sign-up list.
Very good. Thank you very much. And we move now. That concludes public comments, for that matter. And we are moving to adoption of the agenda. The agenda is on the board. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Very good. Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
Who is that? Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. And we move now to approval of a public presentation, South Carolina Equine Park. Ms. Tamara Flynn. Ma'am, can you come on up? And normally we provide about 15 minutes. This is a part where we can do an exchange with question and answer if you'd like. And we also welcome Ms. Cindy Prestige. Nice to have you here, also a member of that board from the South Carolina Equine Park. Please, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Council, for having me come speak tonight. We do have a new executive committee, and I'm recently been voted in as the chairman of the South Carolina Equine Promotion Foundation. So I wanted to come over and meet you all, introduce myself a little bit, just a short background. I reside in Columbia, South Carolina, but I have had...
Can you move the microphone in front so everybody can hear you?
I've had a horse in Camden for over 35 years, showing my age a little bit, and have horse showed at this park. It's near and dear to my heart and something I was very excited to be nominated as chairman of. And I'm going to let Cindy introduce herself, because she is also recently the vice chairman for our board. Oops.
My husband, Ron Prestige, and I moved here about 35 years ago to start up an equine practice. And shortly after we moved here, the equine park was actually established. And it was a vital part of our profession and our careers, having this park here and having a prosperous park. It benefited the community and benefited us greatly. So I'm looking forward to paying back.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I've put together a presentation that I hope is going to answer all your questions, but certainly feel free to ask me anything along the way or at the end. If you don't know or haven't been out there, we have over 60 acres right off of I-20 and Black River Road. You can see it from the interstate. It's usually very lit up at night. We opened in 2009, and we are a 501c3 organization. So we do look for sponsorships to run our business. We average over 30 events per year. We really could fill up probably every weekend, but just the weather in South Carolina, nobody wants to horse show in 108 degrees in the summer, and obviously the winter can be a little tricky with the weather. And, you know, every horse, I'll show you later in the presentation, for every horse that comes to the park, they usually average 3 people per horse. So we consistently create a multi-million-dollar annual economic impact to Kershaw County. And not only do they come with 3 horses, they usually stay a minimum of 3 or 4 days and nights within the town. And we have a great website. I'd love for y'all to go, southcarolinaequinepark.com. You can see more pictures and anything you want to know about us included in that. Just a little bit about our customers. We're a little bit different than a normal facility in that we're not like an amusement park where we need spectators to come out and pay to come visit and see our facility. Our customers are horse show managers that rent our park and bring all of their participants with them. So, you know, the money that's generated is generated from these show managers and the participants. And we want to really try to maintain and grow as a leading competitive venue of choice in South Carolina, and we want that to be here in Camden. Our events are self-sustaining. Like I said, we do not rely on people to come out and pay to come see an event. I know Chairman Burns was able to join us this weekend. Admittedly, I am not and don't know a thing about quarter horses, but I also went out this weekend and had quite a large time. There were probably 650 people out there this
almost
weekend,
1,000 people.
which is crazy. Lots of what? Yeah, almost 1,000. Yep.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And that's a little bit what I highlighted. They had a big time this weekend. So 2009, we averaged about 996 horses in attendance. Obviously, with everyone else, we were just closed during COVID. It's not that people didn't want to come out, they were unable to come out. But amazingly enough, we were only ended up less than 100 horses lower this year than we did last year, which is amazing. Once we started back showing, everybody wanted to be out there and at horse shows. I think all of our horse show managers had a 20% increase in participation. So it was something everybody could do. It was outside, you know, it was great. So just a little formula on there. I'm going to leave, obviously you have this presentation, you're welcome to look at it, but that's how we come up with our figures. It's people spend about $150 per horse times 3 people that come with every horse, and they stay a minimum of 3 days. So you can imagine that's a good amount of money back out in the economy. Recent improvements that we've done, this is really over the past 5 years, and I don't want to get into the details of how to train horses, but sometimes they do come off the trailer a little wild, and they have to be kind of run around on a rope before anybody gets on them. And we had a lunging area that needed some work, and we got that footing improved and taken care of. We had to make some bigger manure bins to take care of our manure out there and get it moved off the property. Tons of grass out there. Obviously, we're continuously having to keep, our lawn mowers and things of that nature updated. We got great screens for the covered arena. The sun comes in, it's like driving down the road at 5 o'clock at night, kind of blinds the riders. So we got some screens that come down and kind of cover that area. And more importantly, there's a lovely double stall bathroom down at the area where you actually horse show, which 60 acres, that's real important. It's a little far to run back up the hill to the restroom. So that was a lot of improvement over a tight year. But we have some very big plans for 2021 and beyond. We do have to, your horses jump jumps, they're all made of wood. Weather, everything else involved in it does make the jumps deteriorate over time. We've had these jumps for quite a long time, so we're going to replace 2 rings full of jumps. Got a retaining wall that is having some issues that we need to get repaired. We've got over 180 stalls that are in some older barns that really need to be refreshed. Landscaping around the park, you kind of go down the hill and you're in a bit of a it's just sand pit. There's just no other words around it. It's very sunny. It's very hard to be a spectator and an exhibitor down there. We really need to bring in some shade down to that area for people to sit and watch and stand. And then we're gonna light up the whole park. These horse shows are running way past 5 o'clock every weekend. Exhibitors can't show in the dark. We've got 1 ring that has lights, so we're gonna light all of them up and let them keep showing all night if they want to. And then our biggest, probably to me, most exciting next improvement is an RV park. And with that RV park, although it is designated for people coming to the horse shows, this weekend we had almost 80 campers, and they are huge. Everybody's campers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the good part about this is this also can be used when there's not a horse show for overflow for events downtown, off the interstate RV parking. I mean, we're not talking about just a piece of grass that we want to throw some campers in. We really want to make this water, sewer, electric, and bathhouses and everything to give us more room on the property for actually horse showing also, because these campers just take up an incredible amount of space. This is our new active fresh committee, but we also have some long-term and original board members, which is amazing. And they are really helping keeping this board moving forward, and we're excited about it. And our campaign this year is just going to be Make a Mark on the Park. So we're going to focus our fundraising and sponsorship opportunities around that message. And we have also come up with some other ways for people to buy some sponsorships within the park as well that should generate some interest. Anything you want to say? I mean, I was just going to mention, we used to be, honestly, the top facility in South Carolina. And I will say it has been a lot of years. We've put a lot of work into the park. But there are definitely some things we need to do to not get surpassed by some of the other venues in the area. So I've left y'all at the end of this with just my bio in case anybody wants to know more about me, but that's really all I have to say about the park, and let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate you giving me your time.
Thank you, Tamara. Comments from the council? Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Ms. Tamara. Appreciate the presentation, and that's in my area as my council district. How you doing, Ms. Cindy? I just want to say that's some serious girl power up there for officers, and we appreciate it.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Mrs. Snodgrass.
Just want to say thank you so much for your work and continuing to invest in Kershaw County and helping us continue to be the premier equine county. I know there are other counties and other areas that have the equine industry, but I want to continue to be heads and shoulders above them, and you guys are a part of that. So thank you so much. So as far as shows, is the park, you're equipped to do every type of discipline?
All kinds of disciplines, yes.
Dressage to
You
quarters?
got it.
Okay.
Quarter horses to show jumping and everything in between,
Good.
which is wonderful.
Exciting. Thank you again.
Certainly. Thank you for having me.
Comments?
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
Mr. Brazel.
That's a lot of work. I couldn't imagine what it takes. And it was a very nice presentation as well.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for presenting.
Yeah, and I recommend you all go out there. Vision 2030's got a horse on the front and on the back and inside. It's a part of our culture here with the equine horses, not just the fancy pants horses, but any kind of horse you want to ride. We got 2 fox hunting clubs. We've got An equine center. We've got people that ride for pleasure. We got rodeos coming up. Johnny Outlaw's going to have another one. We've got a South Carolina rodeo. We do everything on horseback around here. We even got signs downtown saying, don't ride on the sidewalk. And I'm happy to say, as a member of the board, we're going to do the Carolina Cup this year in May. Everybody should know that the tickets are on sale right now, and they're going quickly. All the berms with all the tents are filled up already. What's known as, also the lower area is filling up. So if you want to come in and bring your car and your family, the tickets are on sale right now, and they're flying out the door. So I recommend it. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for
There's
having
some
me.
discussion going on with Mr. Carpenter, as you may be aware,
Yes,
Tamara, that within his authority, the RV park, in my judgment, needs a little more development
Yes.
and discussion before it comes back up here, if it comes back up here. The basic idea is the county invested in it some years before I joined this council, and we're hoping you to be self-sustaining, but there may be an opportunity for us to help with grants and things of that nature. Any further comments? Wish you a safe journey back to Tamara.
Thank
back
you very
to
much.
Columbia, but why don't you live here?
I ask myself that every day
Yeah.
that I drive over here.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much. Mary, we got full quorum now with Mr. Jones joining us. Jimmy, we just finished the public presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say thank you for your patience.
No worries. Nice to have you, sir. We move now to approval of minutes. If you're ready to move forward, Danny. And those are at page 4 in your book and up on the screen in tab A. Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
For Mr. Snodgrass, any discussion on the minutes?
Thank you,
Seeing-
Ms. Mary.
Thank you again, Mary. Second, no discussion. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimous, and the minutes are approved. We move now to an administrative update that we've come to expect. Mr. Carpenter on COVID-19.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, hopefully this will be soon to be a non-existent update, but the current update is you've already kind of stole my thunder at the beginning of the meeting. Our 14-day total is now under 200, which has been a while coming. You can go back and see in the last time, just using your eyeballs, when we were in that same category and territory. Our mortality rate is still at 104 precious deaths, people that are passed, but hopefully that is over as well. Again, there's the mortality rate right there. Our total, we've been for most of the last week single digits in how many we have had. There's your average of 9, which is the best in 6 months so far for the month of March. So we're well under there. And again, total monthly cases as well, reflecting that downward spiral. So as the chairman said, climbing down a tree sometimes is tough as climbing up the tree, but right now we seem to be climbing down the tree.
Yeah, praise God for that. Comments and discussion with Mr. Carpenter. We also all saw the governor's announcement last week, and it seems like he's starting to climb us down the tree very slowly, but he still recommends the mask and so on and so forth. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion about that going forward as to what's the next step, but I appreciate everybody's goodwill and cooperation in working through the issues that are associated with coming down the tree, hopefully, and staying down. Okay, no further discussion. That concludes the update. We moved through a series of ordinances. The first one is a second reading of an ordinance. It's on page 8, tab B, and it's up on the screen. Mr. Carpenter, can you tell us where we are on this?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for second reading an ordinance that would result in the rezoning of approximately 99 acres of land from MRD1 to R15, located on Old Stagecoach Road. Council previously has passed this.
Very good. Mr. Snodgrass, it's in your district. You want to make the motion?
Good, Sam.
All right, Mr. Tucker.
Well, thank you. I would have yielded. I'd like to make a motion for, we approve second reading on the 99 acres.
Very good. And the second?
Second.
Mr. Snodgrass, discussion? Looks like it's pretty straightforward. All those in favor will move to a vote. It would signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous and moves to a third and final reading. The second item is an ordinance to establish safety measures in virtual meeting attendance as an emergency ordinance. It's at page 22 in your book. It's at tab C, and Mr. Brazel will make the motion, sir. You want to make the motion?
Yes, sir. I make the motion to put this on the table for discussion.
Or for a vote?
Yes, sir. Well, I'd kind of like to discuss it. Can we discuss it?
Well, we
Then
have
vote?
to,
We have to vote first?
well, no, we do. The way it's done is you make it up a motion to vote, and then we move to discussion.
Okay. let's
Or
do
he
that.
can just say he wants to make a motion for discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, either way, how would you like to do it? Are we going to end up voting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, then normally we just do a vote.
Okay.
And then we won't go vote right away, we'll discuss it. However you want to do
I'm
it.
fine either way.
Okay, so,
So what this is,
no, we won't discuss it, just say, make a motion, if you would, just read the item number 2 and then off the agenda.
an ordinance to establish safety measures and virtual meeting attendance as an emergency ordinance. I wish we could get rid of that word, but we can't, so
Okay.
that's what it is.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Now we move to a discussion. Over to you, Russell.
Okay, so basically, we're talking about walking down the tree. I'm bad about jumping out of a tree. So we came to a happy median, and there were a couple items of concern in the old ordinance, and we removed those items. I won't specifically point them out, but they were number 4, number 5, and number 7 in the old ordinance, and then number 6 was amended. So it was some talk and chatter about how this affected censorship and these different things. So we wanted to remove it, but what we didn't want to remove was the ability for us to use social media, for folks to comment and, watch us on Facebook. And we amended number 4, and basically 4 members of council need to be present, and then other folks can call in and come in virtually. So I think everybody's got a pretty clear understanding.
All right, very good. Other discussion here? Ms. Snodgrass, David.
Sure. So on the comments on the electronic, are we still giving variance for folks to submit electronic public comment?
Yes.
Okay, and that won't just be Facebook comments. That'll be an actual email like we've been doing. Is that correct?
I think it would allow for both, wouldn't it?
Well, anybody can comment on Facebook, but as far as being an official public comment, it'll
Right.
be an email that's gone to the clerk as usual. Is that
Sure.
correct? Okay.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. Mr. Browns, I just want to point this out to make sure we're clear. This is not a 60-day ordinance. It's going to expire on the 14th of next month.
Yeah, it was a little
If
over
not
30
related.
days. I think it'll give us the opportunity to read it 3 times. Is that
Well,
right?
Well, as an emergency ordinance, we don't need
Need
to
to
read
list
it.
once.
We'll just need to read it one time?
One time. So, it's the
3 is
same.
the virtual meetings.
Okay. Mr. DeBose, could you clarify, there was a reason why we did like 34 or 5 days?
Well, the reason is that there are two ordinances on the agenda. This is an emergency ordinance, which, as Mr. Tucker points out, is a little over 30 days.
Yes, sir.
But there's also an ordinance, first reading, to amend the rules and order of business to do exactly the same thing that the emergency ordinance is going to do. But that ordinance would not, if it's read 3 times by council, would not be read the second time until April. So the emergency ordinance expires the day after 2 council meetings from today, which would give the council an opportunity to amend their rules and order of business to provide for electronic meetings, electronic submission of comments, to provide for streaming on a permanent basis.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That way, when we come out of an emergency ordinance, then we can still do all those other things.
I think that gets to your question, David.
Yes, it did.
Okay. Helpful? Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. Councilman Brazel, let me just start off by saying a couple of things. One, I want to commend you for just pulling every single tooth out of the lion. Let's look at the lion as the emergency ordinance. You went through it where we pretty much gave up, I feel like, my vetting process of government to two individuals at no fault of theirs. You know, by you going back and having those issues deleted, you pulled the teeth out of the lion, and I really appreciated that. That was some good work, and you need to be commended for that. Now, let's go on the other side. I don't think we need the emergency ordinance. Well, first off, let me just say this to you as well. You always have the right in this county council to put anything on motion by discussion if you wish, okay? And then you can always call for a vote. Once you sit there and say, I make the motion for it, you got to vote for it. Now, a second doesn't have to vote for it, but you had to vote for it. Am I right on that, Mr. DeBose?
Typically, if you put the motion on the floor, then yes, you're indicating you're going to vote for it,
Yes.
because you're moving for approval.
Whereas a second doesn't necessarily have to do that.
Second, no, not necessarily.
Correct. But anyway, just wanted you to know that because I think you wanted to get a good discussion before we moved into this, and I commend you for that as well, too.
But Mr. Jones, just a word of clarification. If you make a motion, you can withdraw the motion anytime before the vote.
You know, one thing I will say is that I like the fact that you had a little bit of an issue with the term emergency in there, and you said, well, I wish we could get away with that, or do away with that. Well, we can. We can just take it out. But the bottom line is, I do want to commend you for the hard work you put in and the reaching out to me that you did. And I really, really, really appreciate that. And I feel like you and Mr. Connell both have worked with me very well. And y'all may not always agree with me, but you guys are always somebody I feel like I can really talk to. And Sammy, too, from time to time when he's not acting up. But let me get back to the point at hand. I can't support this tonight because I feel like it's just a little bit of redundancy. I understand that I feel like we could move it to the first reading, or we could put it in our amended reinstated ordinance. We could put it there. We'd have to wait a couple of weeks. I realize that, to the next reading. But bottom line is, it would delete what I feel like is a lot of bureaucracy by having an emergency ordinance, which to me, just there isn't an emergency to have this emergency ordinance.
Well, and
Go
to
ahead.
your point, and the reason, you know, I could have pulled this off the agenda. We could have done away with it entirely. But I looked at Henry McMaster and I saw what he did, and he's slowly backing this thing down. And I thought, you know what, he's been doing this just a little bit longer than me, so I'm gonna follow suit with what he did. And we had good discussion about it, and I felt like it was appropriate to leave it on. And so that's what we did.
And I respect that. I just don't agree with it. And I know I got your respect on that as well, too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I appreciate that. But thank you for throwing that in there as well. But that's where I'm at. You know, I'm not going to support the emergency ordinance tonight. I would absolutely love to see us just sort of, and Mr. Bose, I'll ask you this question before Mr. Connell. I know he's got a question or some comments. But explain the process if we did not do the emergency ordinance tonight, what we would do.
Well, then you would not have any rules or abilities to have virtual comments at meetings or to have a council member attend a meeting virtually, or if you had a public hearing to have virtual comments. Until two meetings from tonight,
Sure.
4 weeks from tonight.
So,
Yeah.
so this was just a way to carry us to that point. And then we can further discuss how we can get back to normal completely.
And still having the floor. I get it. I get where you're at. I just, don't agree with it.
That's cool.
Okay. Mr. Connell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a move in the right direction. I tend to jump out of trees too sometimes, Mr. Brazel. But it's a move in the right direction, and for the following reasons. Mr. DeBose, January 12th, was it a 60-day emergency ordinance that we had in place, number 361, 2021?
Yes.
So it would end in just a day or two, or whenever that is. What are we at? Yeah, so just a few more days, it'd be done. And the meetings between now and whenever you could potentially have a third reading, if we had an amended, let's just call it electronic incorporation into meetings, we wouldn't be able to do it between now and then. I think it makes sense. This is what we've seen throughout COVID is a big modernization of county council meetings and participation by the public, which I think is great. And then also, it's a little bit over a month, as Mr. Brazel said. That feels about the right time period. It lets people who have remaining concerns hopefully get those resolved over the next 30-plus days. If Governor McMaster's moves recently are any indication, hopefully nobody will be under a state of emergency and we can just move on. I'd be hard-pressed to see how you can go into a government building, which we're in, but a state one without a mask on, and that's okay by the state government, and also a restaurant, and that's okay by the state government, but have to have one everywhere else. It's just not very intuitive. So I think hopefully this will all be resolved in a relatively short period of time, and the sooner we return to normalcy, the better off we'll all be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Let's see. Anybody else? Mr. Snodgrass.
Councilman Brazel, thank you for your work on this. I think this does help us begin to climb out of that tree. And I know for me, I think it helps if we don't get hung up on the word emergency. I know we read that and we think everything's bad. I think it just indicates that the possibility exists that there could be an emergency, or it could be an emergency for someone, while it may not be an emergency for someone else. There's 60,000 plus people in this county, and so COVID has impacted everyone differently. It may not be an emergency for me, but perhaps it was for someone else. And so the county has been we needed to be in position to be nimble, to be flexible, to be able to respond. And we are getting to a point where, again, we're coming down the tree. And so I will support this tonight, really because it helps bridge the gap to give the public a voice electronically. I love the time of public comment. I love that this is a forum in which the public can let us know what they're thinking. They can let us know what they're seeing out in the county. And without this, there's no bridge to get us to the point where our rules are changed. So I will be supporting this tonight because it does help us bridge that. And I believe very firmly, as all 6 others on this desk do as well, believe firmly in the citizens' ability to be able to voice their concerns. And if we're having meetings electronically, then they need to have the ability to voice their concerns as well. I know this ordinance takes out some of the operational parameters that were stated in previous emergency ordinances, but if I understand, Mr. DeBose, if I understand our governance correctly, a lot of those operational parameters that the county administrator already has to be able to run the county and to make changes in already allocated funds in order to make things work. Is it there's somewhat accurate?
Well, it does. The emergency ordinance kind of enlarges that, but I believe Mr. Crawford indicated at the last meeting that he was not using those extraordinary provisions anymore and had not used them for some time. Is that correct?
That's correct. But by and large, he still has parameters to run the county and do his job.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I think there were some things that a lot of people got hung up on here, and we didn't realize that some of that was already a part of just kind of how home rule is set up. So I'll be supporting this tonight, mainly because it ensures that the voice of the Kershaw County citizens is able to get to council, even though they may not be able to be here in person. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Jones, please, Jimmy.
One thing, to make sure we're correct on this, the administrator absolutely has the right to run the county and to make line item transfers, but just remember, as the attorney said, that enlarged it to some degree. The emergency ordinance enlarged that amount to some degree. And also it pointed out that the chairman, no pun intended, who's sitting at the chair, but it gave a lot of extra power to the chair to trim the agenda and other things without county council's consent. And that's just a fact. I don't know whether he would do that or not. He did not do that. I'll put that out to him. He did not do that, but I'm just saying that the ordinance gave him that authority to do it. And that's where I had a problem with it. It could have been anybody sitting over there as chairman. I would have felt that way about it. It was just that I think it gave too much to one person or two people. And as Mr. Carver said, he never, ever really even used it as well. And on the electronic and everything else, I think the citizens of Kershaw County knows that Jimmy Jones is for transparency. And I think they know that whether I vote for this or not, I have my reasons for voting against it. That I am absolutely for transparency. I've been fighting transparency for 15 years here, and along with some other folks. But anyway, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Brazel, please. go
One
ahead.
last comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to say thanks for helping on your end. You're very intelligent, and
I am.
the censorship issue is what I had a big problem with, and we went through and we found some things that needed work, and I want to commend everybody for working together, and us being able to do it together as a group, and I appreciated that.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't
Other
talk to anybody
comments?
but you.
All right, with that, I think we're ready to vote. I would like to just say thank you, Russell. It's an excellent piece of legislation here, and you've removed some of the thorny sides of things so we can move forward. Well done. With that, I call for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's Mr. Snodgrass, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, Mr. Brazel, and Mr. Connell. All those opposed is Mr. Jones, and the motion passes with 6-1. We move now to the next item, which is item number 3, which is a first reading in title only. There is no enclosure. I will turn it over to Mr. Brazel to make the motion to put it on the table for discussion. Sir.
I'd like to make the motion for the first reading in title only of an amended and restated ordinance by Kershaw County Council determining rules and order of business and providing procedures and requirements for conducting electronic meetings of Kershaw County Council, as well as public comments and public hearings and matters related thereto.
Thank you very much. Can we have a second?
Second.
Was that you, Jimmy? Okay, Mr. Jones, second. All right, Russell, go ahead and introduce this, recognizing it's in title only, and we will vote on it and move it on to a subsequent reading later on. Sir.
So this is basically, and Mr. DeBose helped me with this. I was a little unclear as to, it's basically redundant of what we just talked about, but we want to make it a permanent part of our meetings that is not in emergency fashion.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I'd like to introduce this, and let's put it to a vote.
All right, second, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. And this is my point exactly. This is the way I felt we should have done it. We have 3 readings here, correct, Mr. DeBose?
Correct.
And this is in title only, and this gives us time to do our research a little bit more. So this I can support.
Okay, other comments? Very good. With that, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor on the first reading in title only, so signify. And it's unanimous, Mary. We move to new business. Item number 1 is a discussion on Health Services District for discussion only. It's on page 25 with several packages. And in front of you is a hard copy of what you see on the screen. I've asked Mr. Darrell Ogburn to be here for this. So can we get a motion to open for discussion?
Make a motion to open for discussion with the Health Service
Mr.
District.
Tucker, give a first.
Second.
Mr. Snodgrass, thank you very much. And Darrell, I'm going to open it up for discussion first of all, and then I'll ask you to help us out. And
Very good.
delighted you could spend another night away from your beautiful family.
Thank you, thank you.
To have you here. And I would just say in opening that the Health Services District is a star of our county. It's got a hospital, it's got the Kershaw wing and other things of that nature. And I hope people in the county appreciate all that has been done. You have all received the one-pager. It's shown on the screen, and it was framed by the attorneys for Kershaw County Council and for the Health Services District. That one-page summary was drafted by the county attorneys as a result of their meeting yesterday morning, and it was drafted on the basis of the two-page item in your agenda at tab D that I already described that was sent to the Health Services District. After the meeting on Monday morning, I was invited by Chairman Ogburn to discuss it with the district by a conference call. I think it was Zoom, to discuss it with the district by a conference call Monday night, after which Chairman Ogburn agreed to this formulation that you see on the screen and for further discussion tonight in council. And no votes will be asked today, but we will use it as the basis for the formulation of a resolution that we'll have on the 23rd of March when we next meet, and we will vote on that. So I will read in summary the full text for a record, but let me first say this, that the hospital district is at a critical point. Mr. Ogburn has made that point, and all his board members have made that point to me over the last several weeks. First, the board sold the hospital some 5 years ago, but retains oversight and has managed that transition with some skill and with wise decisions these last 5 years. Every citizen in Kershaw County is grateful for the maintenance of the Kershaw Health and of the Carish Wing by the team that Chairman Ogburn represents. Concurrently, they took on new roles that were never before handled by that board. And those roles are difficult and strongly suggest that the old statute needs to be updated. To manage Carish Wing, to maintain the pension plan, to interface with Kershaw Health, and to transition Beechwood from its current location in the Carish Wing. Just to name a few, Darrell. Management roles were not foreseen in statute. Further, the board embraced Vision Kershaw 2030 under Darrell's leadership and found innovative and courageous, I would have to say, ways to help this county and the school district and our nonprofits, among others. And we all look forward to an eventual groundbreaking at Beechwood in testament to the board's vision and the role played also by Ed Royal and Austin Shaheen, both former chairmen of this body. And I also should take a moment to say how we regret the loss of that visionary, Austin Shaheen, last year. This present statute urgently needs updating. Times have changed with the board's new roles and with our population's changed demographics and needs. And yet, a year ago, the sale offer for Prisma to buy Kershaw Health arrived on the very same day, and as COVID. And we suspended both rotations of board members and the effort that we had begun to discuss to modernize the statute. So now is the time to move ahead on both of these efforts, to modernize the statute and to renew rotations of members of the board. And for the people watching, I'll now read from the text of what our attorneys and staff have agreed to put before this body. And thankfully, Mr. Ogburn, as I've said, has agreed to come here, and we welcome you. Now, I would say up front, before I read the text, that Mr. Ogburn is deeply involved in some contractual matters on behalf of the board, and some of the questions that you may have for him may not be answered here in this body, but he will tell you where those are. So let me read the text of what's on the screen, Darrell. It's hard to make you stand up there so long. Proposed general legislation to modernize the statute enabling legislation to be agreed upon by Kershaw County Council and the Health Services District for submission to the South Carolina legislature for consideration and to enact it in this session. And then it has a number of bullets beneath that. To modernize language in the state statute as to propose the scope, the purpose and duties of the Health Services District, to provide medical care and services in broader terms, to to retain a 9-member board appointed by council, this council, and the board terms would be 6 years, initially appoint 9 new board members for staggered terms of 2 years. That's 3 of them, 4 years for 3 more, and 6 years for 3, effective 1 July 21. Terms would be for a definite time of 6 years beginning 1 July 2021 and ending 6 years later. When term ends, appointment and service on the board would end. More board members could be reappointed. 1 member from each council district and 3 at large. So we would have to change the current township map that we've been struggling with to a district map that matches county council. Moving on to the other quotations, actual process of nominating and rules as to nomination would be decided by county council by ordinance, but council as a whole would appoint. So that ends the text, and I'd like to move into your questions and discussion with an idea that we would show back up here in 2 weeks on the 23rd and approve a resolution. Would you like to hear from Mr. Ogburn first, or would you like to? Okay, is that everybody's view?
Yes.
Darrell, you're popular. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into the comments about the statute, I'd like to point out a few additional things, Mr. Chairman, that our board has been able to accomplish in the last little while. In regard to Beechwood, we continue to work with our construction manager to handle day-to-day operations related to the construction of the new carriage wing. We're ready to approve the guaranteed maximum price contract with Thompson Turner Construction, which will be $2 million under the original budget. We initiated city water and sewer improvements by the Beechwood property and neighboring area, to the Beechwood property and neighboring area. Initiated a process to place Beechwood property on the National Historic Register, thereby raising awareness of the property. We're seeking tax credits to benefit the district, which the district will use to offset construction debt and fund community projects. We've established a 5-year strategic plan to include renovations of the main house and carriage house, as well as other successful planning and zoning approvals for the property. We're also looking into independent living and some assisted living projects as well. Done some feasibility studies on those. We can continue to use those feasibility studies as a guide. In 2020, we granted $300,000 in community project grants to different organizations across our county. This year, we will do at least $300,000, perhaps more. We're focusing on closing the gap between drug and alcohol abuse, obesity, and lack of health education and resources, and lack of transportation in our county. We continue to monitor the contract that we have with LifePoint, and we're engaged in trying to figure out this complicated situation we find ourselves in. We are obligated to provide an acute care hospital in this community, and we will provide an acute care hospital in this community. We continue to collect that tax debt set-off money to the tune of $2.5 million a year. We monitor the COVID-19 closely in our nursing home, and I want to stand here today and tell you what a joy it is to have a company like White Oak operating our facility. They're incredible. Scott Neal is one of the finest young men you'll ever want to know. A couple of weeks ago, we were #1 in the White Oak organization, which covers North Carolina, South Carolina, and a little bit of Georgia. I believe they have 30-some-odd nursing homes. We are the only nursing home that they manage. And we were #1 in their organization with profitability, #1 with COVID, lack of COVID. And that is a remarkable accomplishment. And it has affected our bottom line. We're in the black. We're not in the red. There's some nursing homes across our state that may not survive this pandemic. Because when you lose your census goes down below a certain percentage, you're in the red. And you get in the red real quick in this business. So we continue to, we have gotten rid of are about to get rid of the Burndale property. Thank goodness. Goodbye, adios. And we've hired a new pension asset advisor. We've done all of that with 9 hardworking board members and 1 employee, Sally Harrell. She's the only employee we have. Man, this thing's hot. January 1 of this year, I started my 43rd year in the State House Arena in Columbia. And during that period of time, I've learned a lot. I have developed a tremendous respect for the legislative process. And I assure you that what I say today is only my opinion and the opinion of my board. I yield to the Kershaw County Legislative Delegation to draw this statute in any fashion they choose to draw it, because it is their authority. But I have talked to some members of the board, of the legislative delegation, and they have asked me to give them our position, and we have done that. The chairman's little sheet up there is very succinct and very clear. We had one that was a little bit different than that, because it was the one that I had sent out when we sent out our agenda for our board, but it's just nothing that we can't address and move forward with. We agree that it's time to modernize it, it's time to upgrade it, and it's time to reset. And we're here to offer our support. I will tell you that I will give my time and the time that it takes to work with the delegation. I've talked to some of the members of the delegation already, and they have asked me to give them their opinion, and I will continue to do that, what the opinion of our board. And we want to be aligned with the county council and do this together and get this done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield.
Okay, very good. Comments?
I want to say thank you.
Mr. Russell,
That-
Russell Brazel, go ahead.
Thank you very much. You guys work, hours on end, and it's thankless. My brother was a part of the board for a long time, and I saw him put in hour after hour after hour, and he cared about the hospital, and I know you guys care about the hospital, and it's probably a very thankless position, and I thank you for what you've done for the hospital here in Kershaw County.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Brazel.
we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brazel, very much. I appreciate it.
Other comments? Yeah, Mr. Connell.
Thanks for coming tonight, Mr. Ogburn, and thanks for your communication about this beforehand. I think that this move and the efforts here are very important for 2 primary reasons in Kershaw County. One, the modernization will lead to a more appropriate representation on the board based on population in Kershaw County. We're just working off of some old laws and maps that don't allow for a significant portion of the population to be represented at least by those that live in the area, which is, of course, representative government. The other issue is, continuity in effectiveness of the board. So on one side, I'm really excited, and on the other side, I want to be a little conservative too. We have to make sure that we have the right pieces in place, that there's not a case of brain drain from the board for those who are aware of the deals and have already negotiated $2 to $2.5 million in savings on contracts and that kind of thing for big projects going forward. So for those 2 reasons, I'm excited about it, but I think we should be very cautious and deliberate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Mr. Cornell, I agree with you. That is an important point. This board is extremely talented. It is a varied board. It is very talented. The committees work. I give them the work, and they do it. And they bring it to the board, and the board generally draws a consensus. But it takes a long time to get up to speed on the issues that we have to address, and they're very complicated. Particularly the financing of $33 million is a pretty big deal, and that's what we're in the process of trying to do right now. We've got good contract people. Sheehy, Hancock, and Godwin are our accountants, and the Savage firm is our lawyers. They're all very competent and very helpful. But when it comes down to it, those 9 members on the board are the ones making the decision, and it takes some time to learn what you're doing. I would urge you to look to some seniority when you begin to pick the new board. That's down the road. We can talk about that later. Now's the time to get the board reconstituted and reset, and the terms rotating as they should rotate.
Very good.
Other questions?
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Ogburn,
Yes, sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you for your dedicated and passion to drive this ship and make sure it continues to sail in the right direction with, the three major things that I know is going on with it between Kershaw being built, the new one, and pandemic that we're in, and a future for our hospital. And those are three big challenges. And I think we're kicking butt with all of them.
Okay.
So I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
what you and the crew are doing. And you're right. There are some concerns in reference to moving forward, on who's going to be where and how much brain power we're going to have remaining on the board. But I think we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it after the legislators do what they need to do. And please feel free to advise them when we don't have legislation that don't make any sense back here. Not saying that they can't do it, but a little bit of push and pull and recommendation won't hurt.
That's exactly
But
right.
tell your board I said thank you for all that they do.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you.
Mr. Snodgrass, I'm sorry. Go ahead. David?
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
For your work, and appreciate the dedication that you and your board have to serving the citizens. Just want to echo the things that Ben talked about. Yeah, this new language helps us modernize. And I'm looking at this map, and I can't remember the last time that I said that I'm from the DeKalb Township. I just don't know that's a vernacular that we're using much anymore. I do proudly say I'm from East Camden,
East Camden,
in Valley
that's
Park.
right.
But so I think this helps us, and I'm committed to ensuring that we do not lose any organizational memory. There's a lot of things, a lot of intangibles that are not written down, and anytime you're making transitions, you have to be sure that you don't lose any of that. So I will be committed to making sure this all happens very seamlessly. I had the chance to walk the Beechwood property yesterday, in fact, and I see the work that's already being done on the house and the main house there, and the vision that you guys have for that, it's just phenomenal, and I can't wait till it gets done. Thank you, appreciate you.
Thank you. Local contractor Marty Kelly has been doing that work on the house, and we set out initially just to do the outside to stabilize it, to keep it from continuing to rot and develop problems. And he's within about 2 months and $100,000, I think, of having it finished on the outside. And we're trying to figure out what the purpose of the house will be, how we can utilize it in the grand scheme of things. And sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and just pinch myself and say, did we really buy a $4.7 million piece of property for $500,000? That's pretty incredible to the generosity of Lucy Lindsay. And that's where this property came from. That's where that project came from. It's going to be transformative for the Dusty Bend area. I don't know how many new jobs we're going to add, but when you go from 88 beds to 132 beds, substantial amount of new jobs, substantial amount of new people in the generating income in our county, and it's a joy to be part of it. And there again, I thank the board. There are 8 hardworking people. They just let me sit up and call on the motions and declare an agenda.
Very good. Mr. Gardner, sir.
Again, appreciate what you do and all the alligators that you've had to tread through over the years, as we have as well. But Kershaw has been a beacon of this community for so many years. We appreciate the foresight of moving forward to build a new one and to bring a better facility and that sort of thing. And we appreciate what you do. I never understood the township part of this 11 years ago when I got here. Makes a whole lot more sense to do it this way, as we do with many of our boards and commissions, to allow council members to appoint. So I'm looking forward to that day that we can do that. So we appreciate your work.
We started to do the statute in Old English, but we couldn't find anybody that write it like that.
But we appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, Tom, so much.
Mr. Jones, go ahead, Jimmy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Chairman Ogren, glad to see you here. And once again, I'm just going to echo thank you for all the hard work. Not only the Kershaw, but you and this existing board transformed the hospital, saved the hospital. And I thank you for that, because it was 6 months away from probably becoming a Band-Aid facility when you guys came on board. And I don't know if anybody can remember, but I remember. I remember all the hard work and the fight that you put into that to get it to where it is now. And then to end up where we are here tonight, I just want to tell you this. I am in no way interested in changing any member of that board at this existing minute, at this moment. You know, you're 30 days away from groundbreaking. You got the new facility opening up. You got so many challenges ahead of you within the next 6 months to 12 months or whatever. I think it would almost be foolish for us to try to replace you, Wayne Tidwell, Eric Boland. I think those are the three that would be up. But I do support Mr. Tucker. I will say this, thank you, in trying to get things in line with the appointments. We need to do that. And we also need to update the language. I agree with Mr. Gardner on that. You know, the town and the pastor. You know, the townships, that's old language. Districts. Did y'all recommend those? The districts came from you guys, or what?
Yeah.
I want to commend you for that.
That was
That's
my idea.
Good language. Good language. That's something we all can understand. I'm going to certainly support a local legislative delegation, the work they put into this, and you as well.
Thank you.
I'm 150% committed to you and that board, and I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, currently, as we stand here today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have one representative in every county council district as is, except for Mr. Tucker's.
That's correct.
I think there's two in one district and none in your district, as it works out. Now, I do believe that Nick Moore is going to be relocating from Elgin down in, do you have the Tombfield Road area down there?
Yes, sir, I do.
He's moving down there.
Very good.
He's building a mansion down there.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's going to be relocating. But thank you, council, for being so kind and so complimentary to my board. And they're good people. They're hardworking people. You all have done a marvelous job of vetting those people and giving us a good kind of mix. On a go-forward basis, you all will continue to do that. I know. I have confidence in you. I will go to the legislative delegation in consort with the chairman, and we will begin to talk to them about getting this thing done. As I said, I've talked to several members of it. It passes the House perhaps first, and then perhaps it'll get to the Senate, and then get the governor's signature. So we'll navigate through these waters, and when it's all said and done, we'll all collectively be here together doing something good for our county. Thank you very much.
Let me just see if I can sum up any further discussion. It looks like we are ready to get started, and let's get going. And we'll bring that in for resolution. Everybody, next time we meet on the 23rd, Darrell, I'll make sure I cross-level with you. But we can't close this discussion without first thanking Sally Harrell, and especially Mary back there, who pulled all this together. So make sure we thank both of those ladies and convey that to them. Would you please?
Thank you so much.
All right. Mr. Jones, you have another word?
A quick question. Mr. Bose, explain to me the resolution. Why would we do the resolution?
Mr. Bose, come on up.
Well, I think to get on the same page with the legislature, I think Mr. Ogburn will tell you that it's nice if the health district, which is a governmental body, and the county council, which appoints the members of the health district, and incidentally, if you recall previously, we passed a resolution in regard to their financing. So I think if they're on the same page, it's going to help.
That's my point, Mr. I just want to make sure that whatever resolution we do, that the Chairman Ogburn and his board are on board with that resolution.
Yeah, we'll vet it with them.
Okay. I just want to make sure of that.
Yep,
Yes, sir.
that's what
Thank
I
you.
said. Good for you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think you can go home.
I'm
We're going
gonna
to
get
stay here and
out
starve to death. Thank you, Darrell. Good to see you again 2 nights in a row. All right, we move to the next item, which is item number 2. It's on page 42, which is Mary has helpfully served up a zoning board of appeal appointment for Amy Udy. We had to forego it the last time we met because we didn't have a read-ahead. And with that, can we have a motion? I believe it's from the Camden area. Can we have a
My
motion?
district, I'll move that we appoint Amy Udy to the board.
Tom Gardner, a second.
Second.
From Dave Snodgrass. Any discussion? Again, we appreciate our volunteers. With that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous. Mary, thanks for bringing that one home. Well done. The item number 3 is a selective service board discussion. It's on page 43. And late one night, I got a phone call we're not going to vote, we're going to discuss, but we're going to serve this up at a subsequent meeting. I just need county to follow through on my duty to inform when I get a call from the Pentagon saying, we don't have anybody on the draft board. So what I would propose we do, maybe Tom Webb can tell us what a draft board used to be. But what happened is there is no imminent draft. I don't want anybody to go running out of here and saying we're going to reinstitute the draft. But we got this call from this guy, and I said, send me something I can show county council. But it can be anywhere from 1 to 5 people. There's no pay. It's a volunteer. There's no duties because there's no reason to have a selective service board stood up at this moment because there is no draft. But there's some action officer in the Pentagon that's feeling lonely and feels he needs to have all of his counties in the United States, 4,800 of them, have a selective service board. The anomaly here that Mary and I still cannot understand is the person on the selective service board cannot have any form of military service.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, but that's the rule, that's the law. Isn't that amazing? So at any rate, my proposal is that we kind of agree in here, and I'd like to have any discussion that you'd like to have, that we ask Mary to go ahead and formulate this, and in due time, we'll bring before you a nominee, unless you have a nominee that you want to give to Mary, and we'll bring it in and vote on it. We can have 5, but I propose we have 1 so that we don't have a management issue for a position that's important, but at this time is not active. Clear? Any discussion? Yes, Sammy, you got drafted too, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I felt like that. You know what the Navy stands for, right? Never again volunteer yourself. I enjoyed my service. My question, because I was thinking, I said, man, I know some good veterans who can do this. And when you told me that, what are the qualifications or disqualifications? How can we get those so if we're talking to someone, we can kind of vet them before they get to you, Miss Mary? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, they're set forth on that enclosure.
They're set forth in the
Yeah,
enclosure.
the second paragraph. Behind the general's memo or the chairman's memo.
Chairman, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
chairman, excuse me, I'm sorry. Chairman, I apologize.
I'm a private these days in the Army of the
The
Lord.
chairman's memo, the second page, the second paragraph has the requirements.
After the chairman's exclusions, basically having a pulse.
The only requirement of board members are that they, 1, cannot have a conviction, and other than that, both men and women 18 years and older can be a board member, and they cannot have been a former military service.
Well, actually, current or retired military, former military can serve.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, former military can?
Yes, it cannot be current or retired military.
But that's the same thing as former, okay?
No, you can be a veteran and not be retired.
Or current.
Right.
Jimmy, you can't do it.
Yes, I can.
So I think, Mary, if you can go ahead and formulate that and let everybody know, and then they will advertise for this position. It is an important position and potentially very powerful. So it shouldn't be taken lightly, even though it's presently inactive, okay? So can we close the discussion on that?
I'm good.
All right, good. Thank you, Sammy, for raising that. All right, and we'll move on to item number 4, which is the 2021-22 goals and objectives. It's at tab G. All of you have a hard copy, and if you would just page through, Danny, to the 3rd slide. That one. And with that, let's place it on the agenda. But first, Mr. Carpenter, can you walk us through what we're about to vote on?
Mr. Chair, members of council, the county council met back in February on the 2nd and the 16th and the 20th to hear presentations from various entities, staff members of the county, as well as some outside agencies. The meeting on the 20th, the council formulated some goals and objectives. Those discussions were moderated by Ms. Holly Hayes. Ms. Hayes took that information and has put it in this format, and it is now presented to County Council as a draft of what was discussed and the conclusions that were reached on that day by the County Council.
Very good. Can we have a motion to approve these goals and objectives for the budget cycle?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Now, just to walk you through this, these were derived from Vision 2030, the core group by Susan Witkowski, Paula, and Holly Hayes, and of course, George Gibson. And then we went through the session. Now, just to, Russell, what we do here is approve these or modify them if we want and make amendments. And we go through a series of votes here, or maybe just one single vote. And then when we start our county budget process, this is kind of our guide. And sometimes we don't do first priority, all of first priority, all of second priority before getting to third. Sometimes we do a little bit of each. Sometimes we do none of some of these. But that's the budget process. This is the goal setting. And so with that, who was the opening? Mr. Snodgrass, go ahead, please.
Sure. I was just reiterate what some of the things that you said, Mr. Chair, that this is a guide. Sometimes we look at this and we think, if we vote for this or vote no for that, then we're emboldened to everything that's on this list. This is really just as I've seen it, it gives Mr. Carpenter and staff a map of where what general direction they should go when they begin to set the budget. And of course, when you get into the budget, then you can say whether you dislike or like something that Mr. Carpenter has put into the budget. I like what's here. I would point out that I think Holly, who I know kind of edited all this down, she, under high priority growth county services, create and conduct a wide variety of growth studies. I want to be clear that one of those in particular is an East Camden feasibility study for the highway and water issue out there. I would prefer it to be written, but if I think staff understands what that means. So, and we've talked about that, so it's not a sticking point for me, but just so I can verbally say that's within that.
Let's just be clear, that's the third bullet?
Yes, sir.
Underneath growth studies, okay, got it, thank you.
Is that how you'd interpret that, Mr. Carpenter?
Yes, sir. What we would do is we would come back and in the budget, we would show studies and what we were recommending budgeted.
Okay.
If council agreed, they would. If the council didn't agree, then we would change it during the budget process.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all.
Let me interrupt there because that's a good point. We're going to have a series of work sessions on some of these. Can you tell us what work sessions specifically you have laid out for us?
Yes, sir. We've got work sessions on fire, on EMS, and on planning and zoning issues.
Okay. Okay. Good. Who had the second there, please?
I did, Mr.
Mr. Tucker, please go ahead.
I just want to say that I appreciate Ms. Holly as well working on this, Mr. Carpenter, and I enjoyed the retreat, if you want to call it that. I think that's the proper name. We get workshops, retreats, and everything all mixed up, but this was a little different due to several reasons, but I thought it worked out well, and I'm fine with what you have there. I can dig down a little bit more as we go into the budget work sessions. Thank you.
Okay. Ben, please.
Mr. Chairman, as I've said in the past, if you could schedule the retreat on my birthday each year, that'd be great. Let me skip out. No, I appreciate everybody on council for acknowledging the list that I sent in with priority events. I see that they've largely shown up here. One thing I want to check on, medium priority, bullet number 2, continue White Pond Road and Highway. Is that supposed to be 1/Elgin improvements? Okay, so I'd make an amendment that we indicate that as Highway 1, just a grammatical thing, but.
We can make that a Scrivener error.
That's fine with me.
Is that okay?
That's fine. I
Okay.
withdraw my motion.
Mary, did you get that? Okay,
And
thank you.
I bring that up to say, obviously, the council and myself have been working at times feverishly on trying to identify funds and sources for White Pond Road improvement. We've done studies. 10 years ago, they did a study. And I think moving it to, or having it in this designation, like some other issues that we experience, acknowledges that we're beholden to variables we can't control, namely DOT funding. What's going to happen with the census? I hope that that gives us gives us a reason to have a motion to put it back into high priority because we can actually do something about it.
Yeah.
Maybe we get to compete better with local counties that have a higher population. But I'll reemphasize that is a real issue for the county. That is the most densely and fastest growing area in Kershaw County. Lugoff's right there with it. And if we don't do something about infrastructure and travel and the roads over there, it's going to be a real pain over the years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll just say thank you for Mr. Connell's help on that West Water study. It didn't get us a nickel, but it got us at least to the table where we can say with analytical clarity that we need to improve the roads in the West Water section, Lugoff, Elgin, the whole area. Thank you, Ben. Other comments? Mr. Jones?
Very briefly, you know, in the past, I've had a big problem with these goals that we've put up here. Don't really have that big of a problem with this one. It's a suggestion, sort of a guideline. You know, well, Sammy, you look at me that way, but when you've got a water park or a splash pad as your number one top priority last year, I had a problem with that. But, you know, we didn't do that this year, and I appreciate it. But really, where I'm looking, I really want to see some stuff done with staff development. Because if we don't have retention of staff, instead of growing, let's take care of what we have now. You know, and that's really important to me as well. And I know we all want better fire service, and we're going to have probably some different thoughts on that. But I support the process. I may not support the funding mechanism, but I'll bring an alternative if I don't. Because one thing I'm not going to support this year is any tax increases or fee increases of any kind whatsoever. I think we have the means to do within our means this year, and I will certainly identify certain ways and bring it back before this county council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, let me make sure that we got it right. Vic, can you want to address the staff development concern Mr. Jones has raised? I think it's in the lower left-hand part.
It is.
Yeah, I don't think, it is one of our high priorities, so I think that Mr. Jones, I appreciate his concern about staff too, because I think we all want to make sure that our staff are developed and that we maintain and support the staff we have currently.
Yeah,
So-
there it is, almost in Jimmy's exact words. Good, Jimmy. Mr. Tucker?
That was the question I was going to ask. Mr. Carpenter, these aren't in any type of order in the high priority, right?
Yes, sir.
It just happened to get put down to the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, just that.
Correct.
okay.
I appreciate
Just wanted to make sure.
Good. And the budget is
Because that's
where-
more important to me than the fire growth right now.
Right.
Yeah,
But it has no
I'll make
seniority
myself
over either
clear on
one.
that.
Right, yeah.
yeah. Very helpful. Other comments? Russ?
Yeah, just to be clear, so under staff development, we're talking about pay raises for employees, a potential one-time bonus, create a pay improvement plan, addressing staffing shortages, continue staff development plan to result in better developed staff and better recruitment and retention. That's what you're talking about? Okay. I noticed in the medium priority, there's also under staff development, consider restructuring organizational chart. Is that also something that you were?
That's totally different.
Okay,
That's something he's going to be doing.
okay.
He can actually do that without that. I don't even think that should be a goal, but I won't go there.
That's, I'm
I
just,
have no problems with it because that's something he does.
I'm just making notes.
Okay. Other comments? I think we've got a fine piece of work here. I mean, it's, the proof will be when we get into the budget and allocate resources against what we hope to do. And we've never been able to do them all, and we've never been able to do first priority first and not second and third priority. Please pass on to Mike Conley and Mary and Danny, who are here, and also to Holly, and the core group in particular, for taking their time to come in and help us with this.
Yes.
And I note here that there's also addressing Vision 2030 going forward as well. So with that, let's move to vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Mary. Thank you. This has been a wonderful process and a team-building event as well. With that, next item on the agenda is council briefs, I believe. And with that, Mr. Jones, you have your first in the batting order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Right briefly, I just want to say that I'm 6 feet away from everybody. Okay? This is legal. This is legal with the governor. This is legal with the city. This is also not restricted under the resolution. The resolution has no teeth, no power whatsoever. However, in order to get along for the moment, I'm going to put it back on. Now, I'm not going to tell you how long I'm going to wear it because there's no date of destruction on your resolution, which is not a law. It's just sort of by the way, the resolution passed on, as we know, a 4-3, and it was targeted to me. It's obvious about that. And I appreciate my colleagues on here who recognized that and made that clear. You can say it wasn't targeted that was not targeted at me, but it absolutely was. But I want everybody to understand I obey the law. And I'm obeying it. Y'all are not within 6 feet apart right now. I don't know that y'all are really legally within the boundaries of the law. But I am 6 feet. And I've asked for that to be done before. And y'all moved back up just so you could do a resolution and force me to put a mask on. So I'd like y'all to consider going 6 feet apart as well as wearing your mask. I think that'd be a good gesture to show that you too are trying to do everything you can, along with your language that you spell out there, that you support safety and goodwill. Also, I'd like to just give some kudos to a young lady. She is a Apache helicopter pilot. She's a hero in my book. And she is serving as liaison for the local legislative delegation, Katie Gwynn. She is absolutely phenomenal. She's outstanding. She's a hard worker. We're lucky to have her. The delegation is lucky they found her. And I just want to give a shout out to her. And I know that most of you here have met her. And I know we'll all give her our support. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I thank each and every one of you for this moment to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Snodgrass.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, I want to say that this past winter, I had the chance to participate in the rec league basketball and coach my girls, and just wanted to give kudos to our rec league during just an unprecedented time. They continued to offer great service and a great league with great protocols, keeping everyone safe. And so, Mr. Carpenter, if you would, just send those kudos over to Shane and Jeremy and the rest of the staff over there. And also want to continue to remind people, please, please, please watch the litter. It's everywhere. And I'm going to be working on some litter pickup days for my area, and hopefully we'll be able to announce that the next meeting. And I know the commission, the Clean Community Commission, is getting back. They're getting back in action again now that things are beginning to open up. So just encourage people, please take pride in your area. You know, people in Kershaw County, they say, hey, we want growth and we want this and that, but then at the same time, we're also throwing our trash out the window. And just want to encourage it all to take pride of where we are. So we can do it. And thank you. That concludes my remarks.
Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gardner.
No report.
Sir, Mr. Brazel.
Just to reiterate what Mr. Snodgrass was talking about, Steve Zobel actually reached out to me and is planning a community cleanup, I think the weekend before the Carolina Cup.
Right.
So if that falls in line, if that date works, I just wanted to say thanks to Steve for reaching out and trying to lead we all see the trash. It's, been winter and nasty and rainy, and there's a lot of trash on the road, and look forward to doing that, and look forward to the first annual river cleanup. We've got a date now, August 14th.
Good.
And that's going to be a big event. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to use Veterans Park, and we're going to have some sort of event to get folks to come out and have a good time afterwards. And we'll spend a few hours on the water that morning, and I hope we can clean up the Wateree River.
Mr. Connell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things. Interesting that everybody's talking about cleaning up. Spring maybe makes you feel that way, but I've noticed it as well in the community. I hope that we'll take pride and have a better sense of duty to our surroundings, to not litter and just dirty up the roads. Being part of some of these cleanups, you'd be imagine how much trash you find on the side of the road. And, you know, recently I was thinking about it because I've got a friend that's a CEO who is interested in looking at Kershaw County, considering having a business come here and trying to work on dates that they can come out and have the family come out and look. And I'm just thinking, gosh, what roads do I take them down that will present Kershaw County in the best way possible? And, you know, we shouldn't have to think that. Everybody, the way we handle our own personal trash should be reflected in our moral character, which I know Kershaw County has high moral character in general. The other thing I want to mention, Mr. Chairman and Council, is a big congratulations to Kershaw County wrestlers.
Yeah, buddy.
Between North Central and Camden and Lugoff, you had champions. You had people who way outpunted their coverage on what you would expect from them at that type of tournament based on the record throughout the year, but they just showed up and were gritty and worked hard and beat guys that they shouldn't have beat. It's a beautiful thing. I congratulate the wrestlers, the coaches, and also the parents that did well. And in some form here, in the next couple of meetings, we'll be bringing them up for recognition because it's very deserved. Wrestling is such a tough sport. I mean, it's just such a tough sport and lays a foundation for the rest of a young man or woman's life. In fact, you remember Patrick Payne, Sergeant Major Patrick Payne, who came through. He wrestled at Lugoff Elgin High School, and he'd tell you, if he was sitting here today, he attributes a lot of his success in the military and overcoming obstacles to what he experienced and learned in the sport of wrestling. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. And I'll close it out very quickly. Everyone is majoring on litter pickup. Last weekend, we had Melissa Kinlaw, Nicola, and then the week before that, Nicola Garcia with Tom Webb from our Clean Committee. I would ask you to link up with the Clean Commission. They'll give you the instruments, and I would just tell you, all those homeowners like Steve Zobel and all the rest of them, as you go out to do that, and also you, David, is coordinate with the sheriff so he can provide a little top cover. People tend to drive too fast by these people, and the sheriff has been all over it. All right, Tom, he's been out there with you to back us up so our people can do that pickup safely. And it's always a great community effort. I thank you for that. Secondly, I'm with you, Ben. All these sports are starting to show who our young heroes are. And we kind of need some heroes in this as we're climbing down from that COVID tree. And it's just great to go to these high school and junior high school sports. And it's just terrific to also see their success and to celebrate it. Lastly, I would say, Mr. Brazel, thank you for jumping out on those two very difficult ordinances. I think that'll help us as a team to get down from the tree. Let's do that. I have nothing further. I turn it over to Mr. Carpenter to take us out with the administrative briefing.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, one item coming up as we roll back open events. We have another movie night at the Wateree River Veterans Park this March the 26th. It's an Easter movie. 7:30 is when the gates open. We ask that people call in to reserve their space. We are beginning to move away from in-car only and having outdoor to encourage more families to participate. There will be food trucks as well, so it'll be a nice event for families to come out to. So encourage everybody who is interested. It doesn't have to be a family. You can come out yourself. You don't have to have kids. Come out and see it. And we're doing now, it's averaging about one a month that we're doing around the county. Parks and Rec was up at the Irish Fest on Saturday, and the movie that was shown was Parks and Rec was showing that movie. Worked in tandem with the sheriff's office showing movies as well. So you'll see more and more of these movies around the county as Parks and Rec tries to reach out to our families and our citizens. So it's going to be a great spring.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes,
I
sir.
heard you say call in. Where does the public find the number to?
Is
Is the flyer just cut off?
Yeah, the
Okay.
flyer's cut off there. It's on
Okay.
the flyer itself, and
Thank
it's
you.
also the Parks and Rec number too, but it's on the flyer, and it's on the Facebook pages for the county and Parks and Rec as well.
Yeah, terrific, terrific. And that's Eastern Daylight Savings Time, I would point out to you.
Which does change this coming Sunday, so an extra hour. that
I
we'll
wish
have
we could
daylight.
pass an ordinance about that. All right.
That's
Anything
my
further?
report, sir.
Okay, very good. Mr. DeBose.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
And with that, there's no further need for an executive session. Can we have a motion that we adjourn?
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, Mr. Tucker, a second from Mr. Connell, of course. Any discussion? I wish you all well. Don't forget to set your clocks back. All those in favor signify by hand.
Up, spring forward.
And we are unanimous. There we go.